going to be talking about Simon Kuznets and his theories on economic development and income inequality. I'm going to introduce Simon Kuznets and his theories on income inequality in an economy. I will discuss the Kuznets curve, the Kuznets ratio, and the environmental curve, while also explaining how they relate to the chapter on calculating GDP. I will also present details on the terms technological advancement, capital deepening, convergence, and human capital from the chapter. Simon Kuznets was born in Ukraine in 1901 and moved to the United States in 1922. He attended Columbia University in 1926, where he earned his PhD and the following year joined the National Bureau of Economic Research. He was an economics professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Johns Hopkins, and Harvard from 1930 to 1971. And in 1971, he was awarded the Economics Nobel Prize, where his work later helped come up with the understanding and the calculation of gross domestic product. He later died in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Simon Kuznets came up with the idea of the Kuznets curve, which is when the per capita income increases along with income inequality. And for those of you who don't know, per capita income is the average per person income for an area to determine the standard of living of that population. After reaching the maximum level, or the tipping point, income inequality falls as GDP increases. GDP is the value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given year. Depending on how low or high a country's GDP is, you can tell how big an economy is by its growth rate. The calculation for determining GDP is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. This GDP calculation is important to the Kuznets curve because according to Kuznets, a country's economy can grow in the long term by increasing the supply of goods in a population, calculated through GDP. Simon Kuznets also founded the Kuznets ratio, which defines the level of income distribution by using the amount of household income. A 1% ratio tells us that in a given area, the household income is evenly distributed, meaning everyone in that area is fairly compensated and they all receive the same level of opportunity to gain wealth. The higher earning households typically attain a ratio of the upper 20%, and the lower earning households typically earn a ratio between the lowest 20 to 40%. Kuznets' environmental curve shows a parallel relationship between inequality and development. When a country progresses, the rate of development is directly related to the increased rate of environmental deterioration, until reaching the turning or tipping point where the degradation would naturally start to fall as per capita income increases. In the 1950s, Simon Kuznets hypothesized that an inverted U-shaped relationship exists between inequality and development. As countries developed, inequality would increase until a certain tipping point, after which it would start to fall again. Thus, environmental indicators deteriorate as an economy industrializes or until a turning point is reached. The indicators then begin improving again with the aid of new technology and more money that is funded back to society to improve the environment. The relatively recent surge in the use of machines and automation has led to a significant decrease in jobs all over the world. Using machines results in greater productivity for companies and higher rates of unemployment. By the year 2030, there is expected to be 20 million manufacturing jobs that will use machines instead of people. As an economy develops with newer technological advancements, income inequality increases due to the lack of job availability. The more people working and paying taxes, the better the economy is. Therefore, the increase in technology has a negative impact on the economy. A country can experience economic growth if they focus on labor productivity and increasing their physical capital. Prioritizing and investing in their human capital and technology drives the growth even more. When a country increases the level of capital per person, the result is known as capital deepening. Capital deepening applies to both additional physical capital and additional human capital per worker. Countries with better funded governments and well-established economies tend to have more capital skill and a slower growth rate, whereas economies with low per capita income grow faster. The high rate of growth in those countries is known as convergence. It can be attributed to the demand for labor and the country's overall lack of wealth. If a family has more children, there is more income being brought to the home and more workers joining the workforce. Additionally, if a minor joins the workforce, they may not be paid as much for their labor, which benefits the company and is another example of capital deepening. Thank you for listening.